What's up, Bama Nation? Welcome to the latest episode of Crimson Tide Today with Zack Aitken. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and to keep up with all the latest updates on the show, follow my X and Instagram accounts at ZAitken7. So let's talk about players that have the chance to have a breakout season this year. One player that should be ready for a breakout season is wide receiver Derek Meadows. If you remember Meadows from last year, it was probably that scary hit he took against Missouri that knocked him out of the game. It was one of the toughest moments of Alabama's season, and unfortunately, it overshadowed everything else about his freshman year. But if that's all you remember, you're overlooking why the coaching staff is so high on Meadows. Statistically, Meadows didn't record a reception during his freshman year, but the bigger story is that he earned playing time in one of the deepest receiver rooms in the SEC last year. You got to remember, last season, Alabama had veterans like Ryan Coleman-Williams, Isaiah Horton, and Jeremy Bernard leading the position. And there's also experienced players that were getting rotation as well, such as Rico Scott, Cole Adams, and Jalen Mbakwe that were competing for snaps. Despite all of the depth, Meadows was able to appear in 4 games, and he already logged 18 offensive snaps by week 6. That showed the coaching staff that he was ready to contribute, and they weren't worried about preserving his red shirt during his freshman year. After missing the Tennessee game followed by the Missouri injury, Meadows returned and played in nearly every remaining game, and he continued to gain valuable experience. But this year, the situation is changing dramatically. You have Bernard, Horton, Adams, and Mbakwe. They're no longer in the receiver room. And transfer Noah Rogers, he's dealing with injury. So Meadows all of a sudden has a clear opportunity to carve out a much larger role in the receiver room. The 6'5" receiver, he certainly looked ready for A-Day. He caught multiple passes, including a touchdown, and he consistently showed why the coaches are so excited about his development. Ryan Coleman-Williams even said Meadows looked like he looked the part throughout the entire spring, and he called him one of the most exciting and consistent players at practice. He praised Meadows for always being in the right position, making plays, and bringing the same work ethic every single day. Heading into this season, Meadows' floor appears to be as reliable as a rotational receiver, but I feel like his ceiling is going to be much higher. If he continues building on the momentum from spring practice, he has a legitimate chance to earn the number 3 receiver spot and be a valuable red zone target thanks to his 6'5" frame. For Alabama fans looking for a breakout candidate on the offensive side of the ball, Derek Meadows is definitely a guy worth remembering in that conversation. On the defensive side, if you're looking for a breakout player, I think it's going to be QB Reese, who's the inside linebacker. Now, if you just look at the numbers, there's not a lot that jumps off the page. Reese has only had 5 career tackles, and he hasn't really played any meaningful snaps, and technically hasn't locked down a starting job yet. But don't let these stats fool you. There's a growing belief that Reese could line up and be one of Alabama's 2 starting inside linebackers alongside transfer Caleb Woodson. And if that happens, his production is going to increase dramatically simply because of the position he's going to be playing in the 4-2-5. The interesting part is that Alabama has been preparing Reese for this opportunity ever since he stepped foot on campus. For the last 2 seasons, he's been learning behind Deontay Lawson, and the expectation is that Reese would eventually step into a larger role, but his path keeps getting delayed. Last season, it looked like it was finally going to be his chance, but instead Lawson returned after a season-ending injury against Oklahoma, and Justin Jefferson unexpectedly received another year of eligibility, and Alabama also added a transfer in Nikhai Hill-Green. Suddenly, Reese, he found himself waiting once again. He appeared in all 15 games last season, but most of his work came on special teams. Around 75% of his snaps were logged in the special teams area. But this year, it's going to be different. Deontay Lawson is gone, Justin Jefferson is gone, and so is Nikhai Hill-Green. So the opportunity that Reese has been waiting on, it's finally here. His biggest obstacle is now winning the job over Caden Jones. If he can do that, the next question is whether if he can handle the physical demands of playing inside linebacker every week in the SEC. At 6 feet and 229 pounds, Reese isn't the biggest linebacker Alabama has at the position, but coaches consistently have praised his football IQ and understanding of the defense. Now it's all about putting all of those traits together when the games really matter. If Reese can earn the starting job and prove that he belongs, he has the chance to go from a little-known reserve with just 5 tackles to being one of the leaders on defense for the Alabama Crimson Tide in 2026. So I teased this position battle earlier at the beginning of the week, but one of the most overlooked position battles at Alabama this fall, it's not going to be at quarterback, it's not going to be at receiver, it's not at inside linebacker, it's at kicker. And while special teams, they don't always grab the headlines, this competition could end up deciding close games for the Crimson Tide in 2026. After years of stability in the kicking game, thanks to Will Reichard, Alabama's entering the season looking for a full-time place kicker, and the battle it looks like it's going to be between Connor Talty, who's the incumbent starter, and the transfer Lorcan Quinn. Now, when you talk about a kicking competition, consistency is everything. Coaches aren't just looking for the biggest leg. They're looking for the guy they can trust when the game's on the line. Can you make routine kicks? Can you deliver under pressure? Can you be dependable week after week? That's what this competition is going to come down to. Connor Talty, he's entering the battle with valuable experience in Alabama's program. He understands the expectations and the pressure. He's spent time developing in the system, and he's had an opportunity to learn behind some veteran specialists during his time at Alabama. That familiarity with the program, it could give him the edge as fall camps gets underway. But on the other side, you have Lorcan Quinn, who brings plenty of intrigue to this competition. Quinn was first team All Sun Belt last season with Marshall, and he went 21 for 26 on his field goal attempts with a long of 55 yards, and he connected on all 39 PATs. If Quinn can continue his 2025 success and prove he's more accurate and more consistent during camp, Alabama coaches aren't going to hesitate to put him on the field. The reality is that this battle probably isn't going to be decided by like one booming 60-yard field goal in a spring practice or in a summer camp upcoming this year. It's going to be decided by the little things. Who misses fewer kicks during fall camp? Who handles the situations better? Who earns the confidence of the coaching staff and the teammates? That's what usually separates one kicker from another. And don't underestimate how important this position is, folks. The SEC, it's filled with close games. One field goal can be the difference between a playoff berth and a disappointing loss. Alabama's seen both sides of that conversation over the years, which is why finding a reliable kicker is such a priority heading into this season. As fall camp gets underway, this is a battle we need to be keeping an eye on. It may not generate the same buzz as the quarterback competition between Austin Mack and Keelan Russell, but it could have just as much of an impact when the Crimson Tide finds itself in a one-score game late in the fourth quarter of this season. By the time Alabama kicks off its season, one of these two players will probably have earned the job. The question is whether it'll be the experience of Connor Talty in the Alabama program or the challenges that Lorcan Quinn can bring with his consistency that wins out for this job. Either way, Alabama needs to find someone who can deliver the pressure at its highest moment. And that's exactly what makes one of these positions, it's one of the most important on the team. So we're going to keep an eye on that, and when we have more updates, I'll definitely be bringing it to the show. And then wrapping up today's show, I want to do a player preview on rising sophomore Latsier Brooks. The former three-star recruit arrived in Tuscaloosa with an explosive skill set. At 5'9", he doesn't overwhelm defenders with size, but what he lacks in height, he's going to make up with elite quickness, acceleration, and the ability to make defenders miss in space. Simply put, this is the kind of player that can change the game by just getting one catch, one reception, and he can take it to the house. The challenge for Brooks is being able to find those opportunities. As a true freshman, he entered a crowded receiver room loaded with veteran talent, and so that made it hard to carve out a consistent offensive role. But like many young receivers at Alabama, his first year was more about learning the system, adjusting to the speed of the SEC, and also develop physically. But this comes year two, and the season when Alabama has traditionally seen talented receivers take a major leap is typically in the year two of their career at Alabama. So the opportunity is going to be there this year. There's several experienced receivers no longer with the program, and there's going to be a lot more snaps available behind Ryan Coleman Williams. Alabama's looking for more players who can stretch the field, create yards after catch, and provide explosive plays in the passing game. That's where Brooks fits in perfectly. His speed makes him a threat in the slot on jet sweeps, bubble screens, and deep shots downfield. Offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb, he loves getting the football to dynamic athletes in space, and Brooks has the skill set to become the exact type of weapon that he's looking for. So the biggest question isn't talent, it's going to be consistency. Can he be an every down player instead of just a situational playmaker? Can he earn the coaching staff's trust as a route runner and as a blocker while continuing to make explosive plays? If the answer is yes, don't be surprised if his role is growing as the season progresses. Every Alabama team seems to have a player who starts the year under the radar and then they become a household name by November. Lottie Brooks, he has all the athletic ability to be that player, and he's definitely going to be a player worth watching this season. That's going to do it for today's episode of Crimson Tide Today. I want to hear from you guys on any segments that you guys want covered, so drop them down in the comments for a chance to have it featured in a future episode. And until next time, roll Tide.